Mrs. Buffong, your viral load is over 400,000. What does that even mean? I asked my doctor. Your viral load is how much of the HIV virus is in a drop of your blood. Then the doctor explained what an undetectable status is. When the viral load is under 40, the virus is undetectable in your body, meaning that you cannot pass the virus to others through sex or contact with your blood. As I sat in the hospital in March of 2017, while the doctor explained all these new terms to me, I was still in shock of what was happening. I reflected on what led me to this point in my young life. Losing my father and my sister in a fatal car accident on their way to my 25th birthday was still an open wound that had not healed, even though 10 years had gone by. The unimaginable guilt and grief that I did not know how to process led me to use a toxic combination of sex and cocaine that culminated into the disease. The 10 days that I stayed in the hospital under observation, I underwent a kidney biopsy because I was also diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, as the HIV was attacking my kidneys, and of course, the cocaine abuse for years did not help. During those sobering moments in the hospital, I had to first create a list of partners that I had been intimate with within the last 60 days to 6 months, contact my mom and explain to her what was happening, navigate the social security system to register for my disability, and then I had to call my sister on her 27th birthday and tell her where I was and why. My new reality was overwhelming and filled with anxiety and shame. But Divine Spirit came to me in my dreams, reminding me of what I already knew. Let your food be the medicine, and the medicine be your food. The body can heal itself given the right recipe. With my father being a Rastaman, that helped his prostate cancer using an Ito food plan, cannabis, and noni juice. There was a clear path to healing from my diagnosis as well. I was already familiar with who Dr. Sebi was, Queen Afua, and Dr. Africa, and their work to reverse diseases using diet. Before I left the hospital, I knew I would be able to heal my body using plants as medicine. 5 months later, I was undetectable, and the doctors assured me as long as I stay on the antiretroviral treatment known as ART, then I will live a long life. Well, my question to them was, but what is the long-term damage to the body? They assured me that this version of ART is much better than what it was 20, 30 years ago, when it was called AZT, which we now know killed more people than AIDS actually did. But after my own research, I discovered that the pharmaceutical company that makes the ART that I take now is being sued by patients who had been on their previous versions of their medications for more than a decade. Why? Why were they being sued? Because the pharmaceutical company failed to properly warn those patients on the toxic effects in their liver and kidneys and the reduction of bone density. Once I realized that my medication had only been on the market 2 to 3 years, I was determined not to be Big Pharma's guinea pig. But now that I was undetectable, it was a good starting point for my healing journey. Going plant-based was first. Stop taking unnecessary synthetic drugs was next. My fibroids had just been removed in 2012, but my toxic lifestyle had them back with a vengeance. My first experience towards using plants as medicine was to find a way to manage my severe monthly menstrual pain. My Jamaican friend who had been growing plants for years in Atlanta suggested something called RSO, Rick Simpson oil. I had never heard of it. He snuck it into the hospital for me, and by day 3, I was off their pain medicines. I had the doctors baffled. The next week, with the pain and shock behind me and the concentrated medicine flowing through me, I was ready to take on this new challenge. As my 36th birthday approached in August of that year, I was clear on the mission. My research introduced me to advocacy and led me right into the loving arms of Roz McCarthy, the founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. During our first phone call that lasted more than 2 hours, she asked me to launch the organization's chapter for Georgia. Then in March, the following year, I posted my testimony video, announcing to the world my HIV status and asked them to join me on my journey of healing using plants as medicine. In 2019, I was introduced to ayahuasca for the first time. That psychedelic journey allowed me to commune with my dad and sister on the ancestral plane, and I was able to truly move past my grief and guilt. that is when I knew I was not just a cannabis advocate. I had evolved into a plant medicine advocate. Recently, I was introduced to a new platform called Cannalytics. This cannabis effect analysis technology is powered by data-driven algorithms and designed utilizing over 5,000 patient studies. It takes objective data from the genetics of the cannabis plant and leverages that data to match adult therapeutic use with the right cannabis product. This data recognizes that a specific disease or ailment needs more than just a full spectrum treatment. It needs a targeted spectrum approach. The simplest explanation is that for each medical condition, there is a specific cannabis profile that will provide greater relief. Cannalytics matches patients with the genetics that give the user the desired effect. It helps breeders, cultivators, and dispensaries target and provide genetics with the highest medical efficacy, which will improve the cannabis selections available to patients. This new revolutionary technology will give lawmakers the research-backed information they need to stop debating the medical use of cannabis, qualifying the argument that home grow should be allowed for all patients. I am thrilled to announce for the first time publicly that I will be the first HIV patient using this treatment to manage the symptoms of the disease. Replacing my ART with a targeted spectrum cannabis treatment. Wow, what a time to be alive. Back in 2017, I discovered the endocannabinoid system via a TED Talk hosted by the brilliant Dr. Rachel Knox. At the same time, I found research that proved patients with HIV that consumed cannabis had fewer side effects from the disease than those that did not. After that, I dove right into the vortex of learning how to use cannabis as medicine. You see, there's a vital system in our bodies that you did not learn about in school when you learned about the nervous system and the immune system. The endocannabinoid system, also known as the ECS, is a complex network of receptors, enzymes, and endocannabinoids, which are naturally occurring compounds produced by our own bodies. It plays a crucial role in maintaining balance and homeostasis throughout the body. When activated, the ECS regulates various physiological processes such as pain perception, mood, appetite, immune function, and inflammation. It is also the system that interacts with external cannabinoids from the cannabis plant, like THC, CBD, ever heard of them? Producing various effects on the body and the mind. The ECS proves that all vertebrate animals use cannabis as medicine. My mom, who's from Trinidad, a legal resident in this country, and is a strict rule follower to avoid being departed. At the time, she was suffering from debilitating pain when I introduced cannabis to her as an alternative to the pain meds. Within 3 months, she was off the opioids, and just like that, she went back walking 1 day a week back to her 4-day-a-week routine. She also prolonged her knee replacement surgery by 4 years. My mother's life shifted for the better when she removed opioids from her daily regimen and introduced a full-spectrum cannabis treatment. What is unfair is that she lived in a state where cannabis was not legal at the time. So her relief came at a cost, which is immeasurable. The risk of going to prison or worse, being deported from the country because you chose a plant over pills. She is why I know this works. This is why I advocate so passionately for this plant, because I have experienced it firsthand. And I witnessed my mother and countless others improve their quality of life. Do you have anyone in your life that you are watching suffer in severe pain? I know what that feels like. I know how disheartening and frustrating it is to witness your loved one in such agony and you can do nothing about it. Well, now you can. Become an advocate by educating and empowering yourself to understand what laws and regulations affect your loved one from having access to cannabis as medicine. Minorities for Medical Marijuana was established more than 7 years ago with over 20 chapters domestically and in 5 countries internationally. We have the resources you need to become that champion. My mission in this lifetime is to use cannabis to heal the nations. My name is Nicole Buffong, and I am in my ancestors' wildest dreams, living my best life as a plant medicine advocate. It has been my honor to be a part of this anthology of stories called Courage in Cannabis. Thank you to Dr. Bridget for your vision and leadership to bring these stories to the mainstream and blessing me with the opportunity to be a published author for the first time. Join me, join us in this movement fighting for sensible cannabis and hemp policy. Do not wait, do not hesitate. What side of history do you want to be on when we realize that this sacred plant is a gift to mankind and should have never been demonized or criminalized to begin with? Do not be afraid to come out of your cannabis closet. Using cannabis as medicine is nothing to be ashamed of. Become a plant medicine warrior today.